two critical campaign stops in North Carolina today, one from Donald Trump, the other Kamala Harris. And both candidates today speaking at the same time, about an hour apart. Vice President Kamala Harris was in Raleigh and former President Donald Trump just 60 minutes away in Rocky Mount. Now, I want to bring in my co-anchor, Siobhan Bryan here. She is live in Raleigh tonight covering this final campaign blitz. So, Siobhan, now less than a week away from Election Day, both candidates tonight emphasizing the importance of every vote. So talk to us about what you saw today and what you're hearing.
John, if today is any indication, it tells you that if you put 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue into your GPS, it would have to take you through North Carolina. It seems like for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, with just 6 days to go, they know that this state is must-win territory. They literally are not loosening their grip on a single North Carolinian vote. And as you said, today the vice president campaigned in Raleigh. Her opponent, former President Donald Trump, campaigned in Rocky Mount. Two very different campaigns, focused again on getting your vote, trying to get every single person to push them over the top. In fact, more than $153 million in ads have been spent in North Carolina alone. So when you say we're seeing nothing but ads, you're not losing your mind. It's absolutely fact. It makes North Carolina the fourth most expensive state in the country, only behind Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. So that brings us to today. Earlier today, I was at Vice President Harris's campaign here in Raleigh. My colleague, Chief Investigative Reporter Nick Oxner, was at Mr. Trump's campaign event in nearby Rocky Mount. And just 6 days to go here, Nick, and this race is still so tight.
Well, it's razor thin. We've seen that in the polling for the last 2 months, and we were reminded of it again yesterday. Let's take a look on your screen. You should be seeing the result of an Elon poll, again released yesterday, of about 800 registered voters in North Carolina, showing Kamala Harris, Donald Trump tied at 46% even. And so that's why we're seeing these campaign events here day in, day out, now multiple days a week. So one of the big issues, though, that we've been hearing about on the campaign trail from the candidates and from voters is on the economy. And that was, again, front and center today at the Trump event. I'm sure it was at the vice president's event this afternoon as well. And the vice president taking an interesting tack in this last week, rolling out an interesting new surrogate to talk. Yesterday, I sat down and did an interview with Mark Cuban, billionaire Mark Cuban of Shark Tank and Dallas Mavericks fame, who says he's an independent, will tell you that, but has endorsed Kamala Harris in this election. And he specifically said he was out pushing the vice president's economic plan because he says he doesn't think it's gotten through. Part of what I talked about with Mark Cuban yesterday matched up with what we heard from former President Trump at today's rally. Let's listen to those back to back.
And she has been very clear that if you make $400,000 or less, your taxes are either staying the same or going down. That's a big deal for every entrepreneur and small business. And that also applies to, almost the entire population. There's only 4 million people in the entire country that make $400,000 or more. So Donald Trump focuses on the big businesses and the people who are wealthy like me. Kamala Harris focuses on everybody else, the majority.
I will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have a very special kind of a thing happen. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our seniors. None.
It's definitely interesting to watch, and I know that so many middle-class families are looking at these two candidates, thinking about the money in their wallets, thinking about the money in their households. We have 6 days to find out which way this is going to go. But again, we've been talking about the focus that's on North Carolina, and we just learned today that both Vice President Kamala Harris and Mr. Trump are already planning their next visit back to North Carolina. We've learned that Vice President Harris will be campaigning in Charlotte on Saturday, Mr. Trump in Greensboro also on Saturday, which happens to be the last day of early voting. Both campaigns today pushing that early vote. But again, of course, you have 6 more days to vote early or to vote on Election Day. But for now, we'll send it back to you. John?
All right, Siobhan, Nick, thank you very much. Excellent reporting there. And don't forget, WBTV is your source for everything you need to know ahead of Election Day and beyond. Just scan the QR code there on your screen to find your nearest polling site, as well as our fact check reports.